Welcome everyone to meeting number 5320. That's 5,320. Let's start with Jeremy Harris and Nicholas Adams leading all of you in America the Beautiful. How about if you all stand up?
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
We are really lucky to have Nicholas and Jeremy, aren't we? Let's give them one more round of applause. Thank you, Jeremy and Nicholas. Thanks to today's greeting line, Disaster Relief Committee, and Red Badgers. If you're a Red Badger, in fact, Red Badgers, stand up, would you? Look at that. Excellent. Yeah. Look on the little card in front of you on the table and see if there's a dot that says R or N. And if you have an R or an N, come on up here for a second. So the other one's MIA. First red, oh, you find it? There we go. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Thank you. Is that Jeremy? I appreciate that. Guest introductions, please come up to the microphone in the center, and if you have a guest, please bring your guest with you. Come on up. You can go first, Rod.
Mr. President, we have the master's planning class from UC Berkeley. That's a hell of a thing for San Jose Stater to be doing, I tell you. But they're here studying the Diridon station and the transportation connectivity and so on. And they include Karen Chavez, Julia Flessel, Hunter Oatman Stanford, Edgardo Vasquez, Xiying Wang, and Kinji Anzar.
Thank you, Rod. Welcome to all of you.
Good afternoon, President Steve. It's been a long time since I've been here, and it's great to see such a great crowd. I'm here to welcome Kathy Cordova. She's the ED at Recovery Cafe, just across the parking lot, and I'm a member of their board of directors, and Kathy's a potential retainer.
Welcome, Kathy. Recovery Cafe does incredible work. If you don't know about them, I'd highly suggest you find out. Our member, Dana Bainbridge, ran that for a long time, and many of us have supported it for years. Hi, Rob.
Hello. President Steve, I'm bringing...
Eat that mic, would you?
I'm bringing Brian Horton from Wells Fargo. He does the Western region of commercial for Wells Fargo. And he's my guest today, and he's looking at Rotary.
Welcome. Thank you for coming. Hi, Deanna.
Hi, President Steve. I'm very pleased to announce that my guest today is Mr. Ravinder Lal. He's a businessman from Santa Clara and San Jose. He has 4 youth guest stores, and he is one of the most kindest, visionary, wonderfully supportive businessmen I know.
Welcome, Ravinder. Deanna, would you come up here? Many of you know Deanna has been away for a while, and first I'd like to really welcome her back with a warm round of applause, and then let her tell you a little bit about her last year or so. Deanna.
Thank you. I'm one of the board members, and I love Rotary with all my heart and soul, and I'm really overjoyed to see that we have 2 members at our table that are considering joining Rotary. When I came in 2015, I had no idea what to expect, and really service above self was just really humbling and inspiring. And so for the last couple of months, I've been a little bit MIA. Both of my parents have medical fragilities, that kind of life-ending events in rural Indiana. And I have a sister with a disability who's only lived at home. And my younger sister, who'd been taking care of all 3 of them, was pregnant with her 3rd little boy who came. And so I've been away taking care of family. And everyone is safe and settled as much as they're going to be at this life chapter. I'm very grateful for the Rotarians that I connected with back in Indiana. And I really believe that Rotary is our path forward. So thank you.
They say if you want to get something done, assign it to the busiest person you know. So just call Deanna. She'll take care of it for you. Next up, Arthur Weisbrot, doing a eulogy for our long time friend, Georgie Tilson.
Some of you know Georgie Tilson as the volunteer who greeted Rotary members and guests for about 12 years. She also provided all the candy that you found there at her own expense. What you may not know is that she was one of the most interesting, intelligent, and erudite Rotary members with a great, sometimes wicked, sense of humor. Georgie and I were active in the Rotary Book Club. My guess is that she was the most well-read member of our entire Rotary Club, and certainly one of the most literate and knowledgeable. Georgie was born to George and June Leonard, and she was named to honor her father. Tragedy struck very early in her life because her father drowned when Georgie was only a year and a half. She was raised as an only child by her single widowed mother, June. Georgie attended Lincoln High School with Rotarian Dean Joe Meless and Judge John Flaherty. Although she and Joe remained good friends all of Georgie's life, Joe never forgave her for publishing a letter supporting John and not Joe for student council president the day before the election. Joe's revenge was that he won the election anyway. While she was in high school, Georgie fell in love with Brett Tilson, who was also a truly remarkable man. Brett was a math genius who later graduated from MIT and earned a PhD from Berkeley. He is recognized as a luminary in the field of mathematics. If you email me, I will send you a fascinating article about him. Brett and Georgie married and had a son, Stephen, who was also gifted in math and many other subjects. Georgie and Stephen moved to Boston to be with Brett. Ultimately, the couple divorced. Later, Georgie earned a bachelor's degree from San Jose State and a master's degree from SUNY Stony Brook, both in American literature. Tragedy also bestruck Brett Tilson. Brett's father, a very successful real estate developer, was an amateur pilot. When flying home with his wife, eldest daughter, and a business associate, they encountered a storm and the plane crashed, killing all of them. At the age of 19, Brett became the head of the family with responsibility for 3 remaining siblings, aged 8, 6, and 4. Georgie's mother, June, took over their care. June, too, was a very competent woman who had several careers. She was a police officer and ultimately became the chief purchasing officer for the city of San Jose. Georgie was very close friends with Rotarian Rick Romney and his wife Hannelore, and with Deanna Perside. Hannelore described Georgie as a true member of their family, and Deanna talks about all the wonderful bling gifts that Georgie gave her. Georgie's career, most of her career, was as a lobbyist for the Manufactured Housing Educational Trust of Santa Clara County, advocating for mobile home parks. According to Steve Tedesco, who was head of the San Jose Chamber of Commerce, Georgie was very politically savvy and maintained excellent political connections. Rotarian Mark Lazzarini, who then represented the Home Builders Association, echoed Steve's praise. He said Georgie was very good, a real veteran, with great intelligence on what the council would do. She was a terrific vote counter. Georgie spent large amounts of her time working on various political campaigns and in public service. She was a board member of the San Jose International Airport for 6 years, a member of the Santa Clara County Grand Jury, headed up the Willow Glen Homeowners Association, and was very active on the Mexican-American Chamber of Commerce. Georgie was Blanca Alvarado's campaign manager when Blanca ran for city council in 1982. As Blanca wrote to me, Georgie was unique, one of a kind. Her intellect embraced learning from all parts of the globe. It was not unusual to hear her comment about programs she saw and listened to from Korea and Japan to Spain and the Middle East. She was very fond of Mexican traditions. She had an uproarious sense of humor. Her laughter was booming. Georgie was loyal, kind, and generous. Her dedication to Rotary and the work she performed as a supporter and volunteer gave her life meaning and connection to people she admired and the companionship she cherished. Georgie passed away at the age of 82 and will be greatly missed.
Thank you, Arthur, for that nice tribute. And does anybody play Old Lang Syne better than Jeremy Harris? I hope he's still around when I die so he can play it at my funeral. That's a formal request, Jeremy. Okay. Is Todd Langton here? Todd, come on up. And Octavia Derby, come on up. So Octavia is one of our new members. Todd was her sponsor. He's going to do a very brief introduction, and Octavia is going to tell us about herself.
There are not too many people in this world whom I would admire and respect more than someone who the last couple of years has gotten up every morning and on Tuesday mornings, gone shopping all day, and then got up the next morning about 3 a.m. and cooked home-cooked meals to deliver to our unhoused friends and brothers and sisters and friends and neighbors at St. James Park. And they do it again on Thursday for the same thing on Friday, this last 2 years during the pandemic. I'm going to introduce my dear friend, who is that someone, Octavia Derby.
Good afternoon. My name is Octavia Derby. I have 2 grown kids. I'm a single mom of 2 grown kids. I was born and raised in West Africa, Nigeria. I received my bachelor degree in business management at University of Phoenix. I started cooking last year when I lost my job due to pandemic. Couldn't know what to do. But then I said, well, let me just get up and do something to the wall. So I started cooking, as Todd mentioned. 3 o'clock a.m., 1 o'clock, we start cooking, myself and my mom. Up to today, we fed about 22,000 meals to on house in our kitchen. I also provide them clothing, hygiene kits, and also resources. On Fridays, well, I call Octavia Party, where all the unlouds come and we all have party, eat together, dance. We live the moment for just an hour and they all go back to their encampment. When I get home, that fills my heart with a lot of joy that I could do this. I don't know them, but I think they are my brothers and they are also my sisters, since I lost 3 brothers already. So I adopted all of the on-house to be my relative. I would like to read a quote that's really love this quote. I shall pass through this world but once. Any good, therefore, I can do, or any kindness that I can show human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer or neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. Stephen Greatland. And also, I love to dance, travel all over the world, 10 countries in counting. And my name again is Octavia Derby, CEO and founder of Octavia Kitchen. I would like to ask the Rotarian one question, please. I want to ask any of you, if you know anybody, people of color, please raise up your hand. It could be your friend, your neighbor, your co-worker, business partner, whatever. Okay. Next week, all of you, please invite them. I want to see them. I'm going to bring mine too. Let them come and see me. Next week, Wednesday, please invite them. Thank you so much.
I hope you're all inspired to follow Octavia's advice. So please bring your friends of color to Rotary. Next up, Dave Peterson to talk about Interact and RILA.
All right, hey, thanks for a few minutes here. As many of you know, I spend my time volunteering and engaging with our 5 sponsored high schools, Lincoln, Gunderson, Overfelt, Bellarmine, and Santa Teresa. Today, I'm calling on our membership to volunteer in support of Interact on November 7th to help return to a live leadership program at Independence High School called the Fall Leadership Conference. This day-long event runs from 8 to 4, but the greatest need is during registration, 8 to 10 in the morning or 11 to 1. All participants are required to be vaccinated, and that's part of the check-in or check at registration. Pre-COVID, there were 4,500 plus kids that would arrive for this Fall Leadership Conference together in the one day every fall. It's sponsored by District 5170, so it's a part of the entire district. The event is a sampling of what makes our district the largest Interact district in the world. With this being the first local large event for these kids returning live, it's capped at 2,000, and they are expecting a sellout. That's where you come in, and that's why I'm asking for your help. In order to pull it off, the event needs approximately 50 more adult volunteers. Now, as a bonus, I've received the okay to provide flyers to the San Jose and Los Gatos high schools that we sponsor as part of our Enterprise Leadership Conference, or ELC, for those that might know this. As you know, ELC was canceled at the last minute, literally days before, in March of 2020. It couldn't happen in March of 2021, and it is planned for March of 2022. Recruiting the students is key. I'm thinking of this as a great opportunity to get directly to the students, kick off the recruiting campaign for ELC. And maybe take a table at lunch and talk to those kids directly. So at least I challenge all those ELC committee members, and especially those involved in the recruiting directly to the high schools, to join me on November 7th. You don't have to commit for the whole day, maybe just a few hours in the morning or in the midday. Take the half day, take the whole day. A shout out to my fellow Interact committee member, Jason Laker, who's already signed up. And for the rest of you, info and a link to the sign up will be in this week's coming bulletin, or I slipped some papers on your tables there that you can grab, the little sleeves that are there that have the link that you can join us with. Bottom line is, you can help this event succeed. You can help get the word out to all the local high schools about our clubs at ELC. You can show our local youth they matter to all of us. And last but not least, you can proudly wear your Rotary Club of San Jose clothing, like Rod Deardon has on. Nice shirt, Rod. We shop at the same stores. So thank you, and please join me on November 7th. Appreciate your time.
Come on up, Danny. Next up, we've been doing some brief stories from our COVID cohort. Those are people who joined during COVID, particularly during Fernando's difficult year when he never had anybody in the room. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Danny Bongatti. And Danny joined in summer of 2020, and she's going to tell you a little something about herself.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. This is my first in-person Rotary meeting, so I'm very excited. Thank you to Ron Drack, who was my sponsor to get me into Rotary. I think he beat Rod Deardon to the line to get to me to be my sponsor, because I know that Rod is the biggest supporter of Rotary. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be part of Rotary. I spent 20 years of my career in hospitality. Today I'm the proud general manager of the Silicon Valley Capital Club. And speaking of COVID, I started March 1st of 2020. So it's been a thrilling ride, but we're back in the game, and I'm thrilled to be part of Rotary. I really truly believe what Rotary does to help our community, and it's one of the most important things that we can do. And folks like Octavia and the generations of all of you who've helped the community is certainly appreciated for me, and I can't wait to be part of it. Thank you.
The Military Care Committee, who's sitting over here somewhere, I want you to raise your hands over there. A bunch of great people doing wonderful work. They're asking us to sign up to participate in the Veterans Day Parade. I've done this in the past, and it's really, really fun. They've got a historic Peerless bus as our entry into the parade, and they need about 45 people to be on the bus. We don't want the bus to be empty. So all of you, look on the table. There's a sign-up sheet, I think, right in front of you. Please sign up. This is all fun, no work. They take good care of you. They'll give you food and beverage, and it allows us to support our military. There will also be a hospitality tent on Arena Green. You can bring lawn chairs if you want and watch the parade. But please sign up and support Catherine, Dave, and the others who are over there. So please help them out. Also, anyone who's been around for a while knows that one of our best annual programs is the Thanksgiving program, Why I'm Thankful. You know, our dear friend Bob Keeve ran that for 25 years or so. And is Lenore here? Raise your hand, Lenore. Stand up, Lenore, just for 1 second. So Lenore is taking over managing this program. I'm sure she'll do an equally good job as her dad, dear old dad, did forever. Please call Lenore if you'd like to participate. It's very moving, whether you're the person speaking or you're in the audience. So please support this program. Carl Salas, can you come up for a moment? This is not so much intended for those of you in the room, but those of you who are watching on Zoom or later on might hear this program on YouTube. Carl's going to tell you why you should attend.
I thought that was the end of the meeting, Steve. I don't know. Actually, I got to tell you, you people on Zoom, looking at you. First of all, I was in New Orleans last week, and being on Zoom is really, really great when you're traveling. But for any of you who are within a mile or two even of here, I told Steve I wanted to just mention a couple of things. First of all, it's so great to be back. And it's just great to be back. And you know, I know it's great on Zoom, but it's also two-dimensional. It's not three-dimensional. I've seen so many people that I sometimes have been seeing every week now. You won't even know if we often have free wine. I'm not going to tell you whether we had it or not today, but we often have free wine. How will you know if you don't come? But more than that, you know, when I was president, I used to say, you get to be here. You know, to come to a Rotary and shake hands with the people here, to meet the new Red Badgers, to meet some of the people you haven't seen in a long time, is just a thrill, and it's the only place you can really do that. When I started as a Rotarian, I remember I tried to skip as many meetings as possible. Because, you know, it takes a while to get in the groove. But when you come, it's all three-dimensional. The music, the Auld Lang Syne, everything is three-dimensional. The fidelity, Jeremy, even Steve without a jacket on. It's just special. So I don't want to encourage you to come. I just want to remind you how great it is to actually come back physically to Rotary again. It's a rare opportunity. See you next week.
Thank you, Carl. Charlie McCollum, please come up and introduce today's speaker. And all of you, please thoroughly enjoy this wonderful program.
Thank you, President Steve. Hi, everybody. I am absolutely delighted to introduce our guest today, Katrina Stevens, who became the 4th president and CEO of the Tech in October of 2020. Great timing. She is the first educator and the first woman to hold that post in the Tech's history. Before joining the Tech, she was the director of learning science at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. And before that, Katrina was the deputy director and senior advisor in the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Educational Technology in the Obama administration. During that time, she led the Future Ready Schools movement to help district leaders implement best practices in digital learning. Would you all please welcome the new head of the Tech, Katrina Stevens.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the intro. It's really good to be here, to see all of you, and to see those of you who I can't see, but who are watching from home. I thought before I shared a little bit about the Tech's journey, like where the Tech is now, where we're headed, and a little bit about what we're seeing in terms of what's happening with kids these days because of the pandemic, but share a little bit too about my journey, just because that really has influenced a lot of how I think about the direction that we're headed with the Tech. So I, as you know, mentioned, like as my heart, I am an educator, but I didn't always know that. I actually explored business. I thought about, I was in a PhD program where I was planning on doing work with women in the Renaissance. But if I look back, my 11-year-old self actually did know that I wanted to be an educator. When I was in 11, I created a school in the summertime. I charged $2 per kid. So like, yeah, good babysitting rates. I had kids come over and and I had a whole schedule. So I had math and I had reading, and of course I had recess and snacks. And I think that the parents that dropped their kids off probably assumed my parents were more involved than they were. But it was a pretty good deal for parents to be able to like drop their kids off and go off and do their errands. And I just like thoroughly enjoyed it. So I look back, I think oftentimes when we're young, and this is true for young people, you often do actually have a sense of what it is you want and who you are and what you want to do when you grow up. So back to, I was in this PhD program, and there was a call from a school that was down the street. This is in North Philadelphia, and this school was really struggling. They had lost literally hundreds of teachers suddenly. This was a school where literally this was back in the early 90s. This is back when all of the doors were actually boarded, they were closed because they were trying to keep drug dealers out. So this was a school that was, we would often talk about as a place where hope went to die. But they, I had a call, they really wanted folks to come down. So I came in and I took over a few classes and I loved those kids, still love those kids. But one of the things I heard from them, and this is gonna connect this to something later, is that most of the kids had never gone to college, like their families hadn't gone to college. And a few of their friends who had kind of made it to college never made it past the first year. And so they were just sort of like, why should we bother? Even those of us who are getting A's and B's, like, why should we even try to go off to college? Because we're not gonna make it there. And so one of the things I did was the first grant I ever wrote was to create a program where we took kids and I literally took them up to college. I took them to campus. I got them to sit in a college campus to see themselves, to imagine themselves as being in college. So really, and this started that spark of like, here's what you could do with your life. Then they were also like, well, but even when we get there, kids don't do well from our community. And so really worked with them to develop some writing skills. We used the college application process as a way to be able to teach them how to write. So got them that skills and confidence that they needed. But I think that the secret sauce, and something I tied to in a few minutes, was that I went and for each one of those kids, I went to the universities where they were landing. I was running a writing center. I found the writing center in those universities, and I had an adult there. So when the kids arrived, there was an adult that was that cared about them, that watched out for them, and every single one of those kids graduated from college. Every single one of them. Again, the secret sauce wasn't something I did. It was this connection of having an adult who was waiting for them on the other end. And so that's when I want to kind of share a little bit in this narrative today around our system is very, very fragmented. All of our systems are disconnected from one another. We have K-12, we have higher ed, we have universities, we have programs, like some of the programs that we're hearing about even earlier today, but they're not connected. And so that's one of the things that I've spent my career looking like, how do we get how do we get organizations to be connected? And for me, it's been kids, like how do we really work together to be able to help with kids? And so let me share a little bit. But before I go in and kind of talk about it, I do actually want to know a little bit more about you. So just sharing a little bit about me. I want to know how many of you have kids or grandkids? Most of the room, or nieces, nephews. Okay. How many of you have kids who are in college, or grandkids who are in college, or nieces and nephews? Okay. How many of you have been to the tech? Oh, I think so. Most of you have been there. That's fabulous. So good to kind of know and see who folks are. For most of you, you clearly know the tech. So we've been around in this building since 1998, but the story actually starts before then. So there were a group of women, junior leaguers, went to Chicago, saw the Museum of Science and Industry there, and decided they wanted that for their kids here, back in the Bay Area. There was a little bit of a competition in terms of which city was going to get the tech. San Jose won. So it took a number of years. We actually started at a campus called the Garage, that was in San Carlos. Does anyone remember, anyone who's here actually remember the Garage? Yeah, so folks, yeah. One of the things that was a key part of that was something called the Tech Challenge, which has been around for 35 years. And so even though our building is 1998, we've been actually serving and working with kids for quite some time. And the vision always was, and actually will continue to be, how do we inspire the innovator in everyone? And I want to underline that last piece about everyone. When we talk about that, we really mean all children, not kids who have a parent who's an engineer or have access, but how do we help people who don't actually have folks that can help them kind of along that journey? Because literally, I do deeply believe in my heart of hearts, all children have potential. All children can be. We need to have a diverse set of voices helping to solve some of the problems in our world. If you think about just the last year and a half, if we've learned anything, then that we need innovation and we need collaboration in order to be able to kind of solve some of these pretty big problems that we're looking at. And so one of the things when I came in, we have these amazing signature programs at the Tech. Like I said, the Tech Challenges have been around 35 years. But I wanted to kind of to shift our focus. So keep all the same programs, but instead of thinking about how the programs connected to one another, I want to think about how kids move through those programs. So how do we take a kid and get them excited? How do we get them to have that spark, that interest? And then how do we get them to have that skills and confidence? And then again, to the STEM career pathways. Oh, it all? Okay. Oh, you see nothing. Okay. There's a continuum that is this spark to skills and confidence and to STEM career pathways. That is, so similarly, you saw that same pattern. Like, how do you, it's one thing to like say, we got kids really excited. They come to the tech, they come on field trips, they come in different pieces. But how do we, and then we like start to get them some skills, they do tech challenge and they do that several years. And so they really get an interest in engineering. How do you, but what we noticed is that we weren't getting them all the way. So we get kids excited about STEM, but folks don't actually know how to know the pathways to how to get there. And I'll give you an example. When I was in Baltimore, I was on the board for the STEM Robotics Committee. And one of our top young women, African-American young woman, she was from West Baltimore, is actually where some of the uprisings were. And she was phenomenal. She was placing in the robotics competitions like nationally. And come spring, like the school year's ending, and she wasn't going to college. And we're like, what's like this is like a dream for college, for universities. This is a talented young woman, but no one caught it. Like no one realized like, oh, we need to kind of help her that pathway. She didn't have anyone in her family who'd ever been to college. We were able to get her into university with a scholarship, but it made us redesign the program. So instead of just the STEM robotics, all kids got a mentor. And we actually built out a partnership with PGE. So kids actually got funding to go to college and had jobs at the other end if they wanted them. And so that trajectory of like, how do you move someone who's talented, is interested? How do you get them all the way? And who are the partners along the way? And that's something that I'm really interested in. There's so many amazing folks in this room who might be part of organizations or that I think that actually, or of course, we're always looking for mentors. I would love to show you the picture, but we don't have one. But the thing I'm most excited about right now is that field trips are back. So you heard that I came in October. So if you think back to October, no vaccine. I toured the place and it was in the dark and I didn't get to meet my staff for quite some time. I was sympathetic because you started your job, right, as the pandemic had started. And then we opened and we were here, we've been open for this summer, just on the weekends. So this past month, we added Thursdays and Fridays for field trips. And it's the first time I've been able to see kids. Like, there are kids coming with their families, but it's just a whole different thing to see a whole busload of kids get dropped off and just to see how excited they are kind of moving and running around the building. So that is sort of, like, again, that is the heart and soul of who we are. And we think about that as that, that's part of the spark, getting kids excited and being interested in like all the different ways that they could be connected with STEM. Then, of course, our exhibits are another big piece of who and what we do. We have a new one it's open in beta right now. It's called Solve for Earth. And there's some beautiful pictures that you're not able to see, but we'll make sure you get them. This is about sustainability. So the way this exhibit is designed is around kids being able to make choices, or families being able to come in and be able to make trade-offs. Just think about, so it's not a like doom and gloom exhibit. It's really more around, there are choices that we can all make and how those connect to one another. So there's an exhibit called Sustainable Cities that I love, which is the 6 cities in the Bay Area. And as you make decisions about more park space, more urban planning, whether you're going to have bike lanes, you see how that impacts both the city and its energy use, but also what that looks like and how that connects to other cities. But I would love for folks to, if you haven't seen it, to please come in. I think you would love that. One of our other programs that is really into the next phase of helping develop that skills and confidence is the Tech Academies. So we work very closely. We have formal relationships with 10 districts, and we work with some other districts in addition. But we take teachers and they go through a 2-year cohort with us. And I know what teachers are going through right now, and many of them, they stuck through the cohort. They were with us the whole time, even with all of the additional work that's been on their plate. And so those relationships are ways we think about as we can train teachers, you impact even more kids, because that starts to happen, that work starts to happen in classrooms. Now our tech challenge, I mentioned before, so 35 years, we are the longest running engineering challenge or competition in the country. And this one this year is, engineering isn't just about launching satellites or building bridges or designing computers. We're taking advantage of the fact that that we are going to continue to do this virtually, because we moved all of it virtual last year. So the one things we couldn't do before was sound, because you can imagine if you've got 3,000 kids all doing sound, what that would look like. But in a virtual context, we can do this. So the challenge this year is to create a device that transfers stored energy to make sound. And we've already had kids kind of we always prototype these, and it's just really curious to see what folks are going to be able to do. We had a video to show, so you could have seen the kids doing some things, but it looks like we're having technical difficulties. We also, when we already had made plans to be able to think about how do we extend this work into reaching more kids. So we'd already been thinking about it before the pandemic. But then the pandemic hit, and that actually accelerated some of our work. I am so proud of the team that within 3 days of being closed, had a website up, Tech at Home and Tech in Casa. Took a lot of the activities that we would do in the tech and figured out how a parent could, or a kid could do them on their own at home using really easy to use materials. One of the things that I really feel as a firm, as an educator, is kids were on Zoom. Any of you who've seen their like on Zoom for the last year and a half. Being able to get off Zoom, be able to do some things that are hands-on. And I still think that's like a crucial piece of the direction that we need to be going. So we really thought about that, like how can we actually help folks? But we've done some partnerships on social media. We took off on TikTok. We have 300K followers on TikTok, where kids are on there talking about data science and we're showing the challenges that they've done. So that's been really wonderful. We're doing. Hi, Ziggy friend. Today is, I guess, never mind. So the video is, the sound is working on the video. So I wanted to share, I'll briefly just share, just because of where we are with the pandemic. Something, I just came back from Washington, and the same things that I'm hearing here, the same things I'm hearing there, and actually, oh, we're back. Although we're way behind, but we'll catch up. But yes, the kids, yay. But one of the things that we're hearing, hearing this locally and hearing it from teachers from schools is they can't hire right now. So we're really, really strapped. Like there's no substitutes, and so teachers aren't really being able to get break. They're not having time. Some schools are handling the situation as in they're kind of drilling down, and they want to make sure that they talk about learning loss and making sure kind of getting kids caught up. It makes me a little nervous because one of the things sometimes you can win the battle but lose the war. So one of the things that I think about is like what you really need to be doing is connecting kids and reminding them that learning is fun. And that kind of getting them back into like so some schools are managing that by really kind of connecting with kids and kind of building that community, and then digging in onto the academics piece of that. We're also missing kids. So when we look at the numbers of kids who are enrolled, there are several million children that we don't know where they are. So that's a piece around, and there could be stories along all of those. But they're missing kids, in terms of like the numbers we should have where we've been before. So we're seeing that. But one of the critical things that we're seeing with kids is that many of them have experienced a lot of trauma in the past year and a half. They've lost loved ones. They've worried about food insecurity. They're not sure whether or not, some of them may even have lost their homes. And so as a teacher and as we think about how we're helping kids, we need to be mindful they're bringing a lot to school. And that kids aren't able to learn. I was the director of the learning science, which was so I know the brain works. And when the brain is stressed, it can't learn as well. And so you see schools spending a lot of time worrying about mental health and with social emotional learning. So that's one of the other things that you're starting to see schools spend a lot more time and energy on. So I'm going to take 1 minute just to show you the cool new building of where we're going. It's not happening. There we go. So you know the tech. Right next to it, there's a 25-story building that's going up called Park Habitat. It's going to be the highest. It's going to be a higher sustainability even than the LEED certification. We are going to have the first 2 floors, and so this is going to open in 2024. And so let's show the next couple of slides. You can see. So it's a beautiful space. Like all greenery. There's going to be 4 habitats on the roof. It's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be right down here on Park Avenue, which that whole stretch is being redesigned. You can go to the next slide. This is the opening. So it's just going to be gorgeous. But what we're most excited about is what we're going to do in the building. And that's really about thinking about this. We were talking about this idea of the STEM career pathways. And above us, in these 23 floors are going to be like Silicon Valley style offices. What I want to do, and we're working on as a tech, is to bring kids into those spaces. And so if you dance the next one. And so at the center, we're going to get a center that's really about inclusive design. So how do we get kids who aren't normally our normal trajectories to get into STEM careers? How do we do that? How do we help them? And so there'll be things like mentorships, apprenticeships, things that are just smart too, is like bringing someone in to talk about their career pathways. And then we're going to share this out. So everything we learn, we're going to share out in really practical ways. And when I look at that building, like I think about 23 stories above me, that's like a whole set of mentors. And there are buildings all around us that are a whole set of mentors. And what we were hearing from schools even before the pandemic is that they wanted to be able to have connections with companies and organizations. And we were hearing from the universities around the same thing. We're hearing from the companies, we want to be able to work with schools. But it's really hard right now. It's not you get one-off connections. And so we really want to figure out how do you actually do that? And how do you move actual children all the way through this? And again, not program to program, but actually children that go through all the whole process. So at the end, we end up having kids just being able to have opportunities they wouldn't have imagined for themselves. So that's what really excites me, because I think we can really make a big difference in kids' lives, all the way from that spark to being able to build skills and confidence, all the way to STEM career pathways if they want. Again, looking at real jobs that are in the region. So the last thing, so like, how can you help? People always want to know how they want to help. We're always looking for volunteers. Come see us, like bring your kids, bring yourselves. We've actually had people coming for the first dates to us. They had a proposal on the second floor. so yeah, it's the other thing is like we are open for events. So if folks we can do really cool stuff for events, and you can have activities that are kind of team warming as well as for families and stuff. And so we were, and of course, we always take donations. So your CEO, you always have to do that. But I just appreciate having the time with you, and I think that we're shifting to Q&A, I believe.
Thank you. Please, questions, come on up to the mic. John Kennett.
Actually, I want to make a couple of comments, historical comments. Ralston Johnson, who was president of our club in the early 80s, and a team of Rotarians were the key to getting the tech in San Jose instead of Mountain View. They went to internal meetings and they advocated and they did everything that they needed, and that's why the tech is where it is. Also, that we had a committee in the early 90s that brought 100,000 students, elementary school students, to the tech. They raised all the money. They set up a program to bus them there. And also that when the challenge was just getting going, the first group of people that helped out, and there were 40 or 50 a year, were Rotarians.
So I'm home. Thank you.
Thank you to our Rotary Encyclopedia, John Kennett.
I love it.
Hi there, big fan of the tech. Take kids there usually every summer. We missed out, obviously, due to the pandemic. I'm an arm of San Jose State University through the Research Foundation. And the trouble we're having is we have a lot of activities for kids. We do workforce development with them, definitely STEM career centered. This kind of lost kid syndrome where our teachers don't have the bandwidth to kind of bring in these extracurricular programs or kind of try to insert some more STEM activities or opportunities. How are you kind of mitigating that on your side?
Yeah, so I literally just met with 10 superintendents who are local and framed all of that as, what do you need? Now, so we did go to here's things we have, any of these things that are useful for you, but it started out with what do you need, what's happening? And if what you need is you need us to back up a little bit, that's also okay, because schools are just overwhelmed right now. So the way we try to think about it is how do you get into the things that are their own, the needs that they have, and how can we support those? So rather than hey, we've got all, for example, if a school isn't ready for field trips, we don't push the field trips. We think we actually have some virtual labs. Is that helpful for you? And doing everything you can to make it as smooth and easy for the school district, so they don't have to go out and look, they don't have to figure it out, to figure all the logistics around things. It's like making it as easy as possible for them to kind of plug it in. Because schools are just overwhelmed at the moment. They just have a lot going on. So that's how we've been thinking about it.
Thank you.
Hi, Trevor.
Hi there, how are you? Just a quick question. You make great use of digital platforms and have worked a lot with that. What concerns do you have, given in light of some of what's going on in Washington right now, in terms of the use of those platforms, and how do you feel about them being part of an educational experience?
Yeah, because it's complicated. I started my career a piece where I did the first ed tech chat on this thing at the time. It was like a new platform called Twitter. And in the early days, it was just wild, wild west. Then they started realizing when schools started using it, they actually started putting some constraints and being able to have like a safer place to be able to do that kind of work. YouTube did the same thing. So they went to, there's YouTube education where they're more careful about like any kind of commercials or the kinds of things that can pop up. TikTok is one where we've had a great success, but we are a little worried about like other things can pop up after our pieces. So one of the things we're doing is we've got a partnership with a group called Zigazoo, and they have a really safe platform. So it's designed for younger kids. It's more in the like 3 to 12. And so that's a platform that is designed to mitigate actually against a lot of these factors. When I was in the Obama administration, the piece that I did was like the connected, like getting all schools connected. The piece that I really focused on was future ready. And that was like, how do you get the teachers and schools to be prepared for this? So like the earlier, even like, data privacy and really like, how do you protect kids online? What does digital citizenship look like? I worked with 3,100 districts as they were kind of getting ready. And the biggest thing is the education component of, parents need to know to see what their kids are doing. And same thing for teachers and schools. You need to teach kids around like what it is, because media is not like, it's not, you can't say like you can't use it. Kids are going to use it no matter what. So being able to help them understand like how do you be safe online? How do you not include the kinds of information? And the other piece, because kids are getting, and adults are getting bombarded with information that isn't always accurate. It's really important for schools to have that kind of digital literacy, not being able to, like, how do you decide whether or not this is true or not? How do you back that? How do you research? Where did that resource come from? That's just critical.
Sure, Charlie. You know me, I'm used to be a journalist. I'm recovering
Me too.
now.
This is more of a headline than a feature piece, though, Charlie.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. For a period of time, there was a fair amount of emphasis at the Tech on high-profile exhibits that I think were probably more for adults than it was for kids. Star Trek, Star Wars, the human body, which very cool. Are those exhibits gone now, or is that really no longer part of the mission, or are you still open to doing things like that?
So so the Star Wars one was a traveling exhibit. Yeah, so some of them are ones that can come in and come out. The Body World is a permanent exhibit, at least for the next number of years. And actually kids use that, so one of the things for the places we see that is that kids come in for anatomy classes or interested in science. So there are actually connections that young people make who are interested in that space. And we have art classes actually that come in and will use that. It is a tricky thing. Our focus size is 8 to 18. But I love going to science centers, even if they're designed for kids. But we really think about actually the middle school kids when we design, that's who we think about. And that's who, when we do all of our R&D, that's who we try things out with. And we make sure any exhibit, does it work just as well with girls? Does it work just as well with kids of color? So we actually really think about making sure all of those pieces are. We just refreshed the entire tech over the last 8 years. And so we are not planning on doing any like large exhibits. over the next few years because we got the per capita was such enough to kind of keep us busy. But we are starting to think about what would it look like to have more pop-up kinds of things that are really community driven. How do we go listen to what kids, we have a team of kids, a student board, and they are in fact training other teams to go listen and to be able to kind of tell us what it is that kids are running. So that's how we're shifting to like, what is it that the community is asking and is looking for, and to be able to put kind of smaller, shorter kinds of exhibits up.
Thank you. Charlie, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
More personal. You came from the East Coast?
I did.
What do you think of San Jose? That's number one. And what were you surprised about, positive or negative? And what do you tell your East Coast family and friends when they say, what is this San Jose place?
Yes, so I'm a runner. I could do ultra, so I'm training for a 50K. One of the first things I say is like, it's beautiful weather, beautiful trails year round. So I love the kind of the weather component to it. I think the thing that surprised me about, I think, San Jose was just recognizing how large it really is, like what's included in San Jose in terms of it being the size and how it compares to other cities. So I think that was a piece of that. But I tell people back home, same. I mean, it's sort of, it is a place where all in the same place, you have folks who are like really energized to be able to kind of change the world. But we also have kids, you know, who are in East San Jose, who just don't have the same kind of access. And so it's still opportunities. It's not like, oh, everything's solved in Silicon Valley, or there's money everywhere in Silicon Valley. We still have kids. And so for me, that's like there are children to serve. And so I see like ways I think that we're uniquely able to be able to serve kids in a way that we can't quite do in other parts of the country.
Thank you. So thank you, Katrina. We will be making a gift in your name to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. A reminder, there's a Boy Scouts dinner on November 18th honoring our own Barry Christina, his brother Rich, and their family. These are wonderful people. Please support the Scouts and go to that event. And next week we have California Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber. With that, a meeting adjourned. Thanks.